So the purpose of this is for me to condense a lot of what I've learned in being in practice for 30 years. So there's no strings attached. Consider it as a gift to you. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to share you some of the things that I found made the biggest difference in bringing my practice from being a lone wolf operating from my basement all alone to the current size of 60 to 70 employees. So all I'm going to share with you is some of the things that I thought were critical to the success that I've enjoyed over the last 30 years. So needless to say, you can't condense 30 years of learning into just a few minutes. So what I want to do is really concentrate on the things that had the biggest impact. And one of the things that I would suggest that you do is that you maybe pause the video and get yourself a paper and pen, and you may want to take some notes because I'm going to go through a lot of material in very little time. So the first thing that I think made the biggest impact in the way I operated was to learn to value build, that is to build properly. And one of the challenges we always have as an accountant, what do we charge for the services that we render? How do we put a price to that? What is the monetary value of everything that we render? So the first thing I had to learn to do was not charge by the hour. Because one of the mistakes we often think that we make is that we think people want to pay for the hours we put in. Clients don't care how much time we put into their file. What they're concerned about is what are they getting back in return. So what we need to do is to try and go into their minds and really figure out what exactly do they want and what is it worth in monetary value for what they're going to be getting. And I find that the best way to do that is to ask a lot of questions. So one of the mistakes we often make is we spend too much time talking and trying to sell ourselves, when in fact what you should do is just shut up. Listen to what they're saying, ask a lot of questions, and try to take in as much as they can about what their life is like. And once you've determined what their pain points are, how painful it is, that will give you tremendous insight as to what you can charge for the different services and for the solutions that they're looking for. So concentrate rather on them, what they want, what are their pains, and what solution you can bring forth to their pain, and then learn how to monetize that. The second thing that I think is really important in building a practice is marketing. Now, I define marketing maybe a little bit differently. I define marketing as being the ability to attract and retain clients. So one of the things that I think a lot of practitioners do, and I hear it all the time, they're going to say, well, I'm really, really busy, so we do no marketing at all. And I've seen even some practices that don't even have a website. And they keep saying, well, I've got plenty of business, so I don't need a website, I don't need to do marketing. In my opinion, everybody should always be doing marketing, even if you're overworked and you get too much work. And the purpose of that is that the longer the lineup outside your door looking for you as an accountant, the more you can feel free to raise up your prices, to be a little bit more picky about who you service and all of that. Because I think part of the problem that a lot of accountants have, they're kind of masochists. They just love beating themselves up. And they do it without even noticing that they're doing that. So for me, I like the flexibility that if a client didn't suit me or wasn't a match, I could easily recommend that they go elsewhere without fear, because I knew that there was a lineup outside waiting and wanting to hire me. And the other advantage of that is that the fear of increasing fees disappears. So if I've got 1,000 clients and I know there's 500 more who want to hire my services, the fear of increasing my fees by, say, 30% is non-existent, because I know darn well that even if I lose half of my clients, I've got another batch waiting to hire me. So marketing is something that you should do consistently. But the other part of marketing as well is to market to your own clients what you're doing for them, because that is where they will see that what you're charging is of more value. And we often make the mistake that the client knows the value that they're receiving. So you have to demonstrate to the client the value that they're getting from you. Hire the right team. So having the right people on the bus can make unbelievable difference to your practice. Now, one of the conceptions or misconceptions that I think a lot of practitioners have, they're saying, well, I don't want to have a big team, or I don't want to have a team at all, because they see the team or the employees as a cost, as a pain in the butt, as a stress, and all of those negative things that come with having employees. And part of the reason I think that a lot of people see their team as more of a negative thing rather than a positive thing is probably because they hired the wrong people. Now, most people, when they hire based on technical skills. They're going to ask questions like, what experience do you have in doing taxes? How familiar are you with doing bank recs? Have you ever worked with this software or with that software? And all they're interested in is the experience they've had in past jobs at doing certain tasks. And I keep saying, never mind that. Concentrate on the person as a human being. Make sure that the person has the same core values and the same way of thinking as you do, so you don't get frustrated with how they think and how they do things. You want to hire the people based on their hearts and not on their minds. So change your questions to attract or to figure out who are the people that will be a fit for your firm culturally and mentally. So at the end of the day, once you've hired that person should actually be giving you joy. So before you hire, ask yourself, when I come in the morning, do I believe that this person will make it more fun for me to come into work or not? And how will this person interact with the rest of my team? So those are critical things to look at. And the other reasons you really want to take a look at building your team and building it more and more and more is this is where the money is at. It's the leveraging of their time. So it's impossible for me to get consistently $300 per hour if much of my time is doing more menial tasks like checking the bank rec and doing simple bookkeeping things. So it's important for me to have people on my team to do these kind of tasks so I can leverage my time and have me spend all of my time doing nothing but high-end work and getting well paid for my time. But the other beauty is that each employee should be leveraging their own time with their team around them so that you're making a good profit off of each member of your team. So once you've hired the right people, then comes the next step of motivating them. Now, motivating your team is something that I find that a lot of people really struggle with because it's an art. And it's an art that you need to practice, and for some people, it comes more naturally than others. So how do you build this alliance or get them to be motivated? Because really what you want is a team that you know would take a bullet for you and will do whatever it takes for the firm and for your organization and for you. And part of that is to romance your team. And so I keep saying that you got to treat your team a little bit like you would treat your spouse. So when you were first dating your spouse and you were dating and all of that, you were romancing them, taking them out to dinner and tell them how much you love them. And we tend to forget after a while to tell that to our spouse. But and most of us who have been married a long time have learned that you got to keep the romance going. You can't just tell them on the day you got married that you love them and no longer tell them that over the next 30 years. It's something that you got to keep doing. But the same applies for your team. You got to romance your team. You got to always let them know that you're thinking about them, that you appreciate them, and you got to reward them with nice words often. And one of the things that I think is important is that you use the dog philosophy. And what I'm talking about is, I'm sure that for those of you who have pets, and especially dogs, you come into the house and they're always happy to see you and they're jumping up and down and they're all excited. Now, that's why people love dogs, because they're always happy to see you. You could have been gone for a short period of time or not, but they're always happy to see you. Now imagine if your team felt that way with regards to how you talk to them. Is is that if they could feel that every time they see you, you're happy to see them, think of how much they would be even more motivated to really bust the whole world open for you. So one of the things that I recommend, in other words, to keep the romance alive, get into the habit of walking around your team and asking them just 3 simple questions. How are you doing? What are you working on? And can I help? Just those 3 simple questions, just to get a sense of what they're going through, and that will show them that you care, and I'm telling you, it will do wonders in building that nice, firm culture. And a few quick little more tricks, and a few little quick tricks. Come on, tricks. A few little quick tricks. Reward them often, and it doesn't mean that you have to give them a gift. Just a pat on the back, saying, wow, good job on this file, and wow, I see you got in really early this morning. Just notice the things that they're doing that is a little bit above what you would expect. Make sure that they know that you're noticing these things. Also, in motivating your team, make sure that you give them a sense of safety. You want to make sure that your firm is a place that they can fail safely. That if they make a mistake, that you're not going to become all up in arms, and that you're going to forgive them easily and make it easy for them to make a mistake. Make sure that you're true and sincere to them. Don't be afraid of showing a little bit of vulnerability, and be human. Nobody wants to work for a robot. And sometimes I walk into firms and I see the owner being extremely proper all the time. And I'm thinking, wow, they look like robots when they're in front of their team. Try and let your hair down a little bit more. See, like I've done, put your hair down. Let them see who you are and show a little bit more character and personality. And don't be afraid of being yourself in front of your team. Because what they want is to work for a person, not for a robot. Part of building team productivity as well is to measure their productivity. Now, there's a lot of accountants that I work with who have no idea which employees are most productive, which ones are not, and exactly how productive they are. And if I were to ask them, well, how much money are you making off of this particular employee, they wouldn't have a clue. So you have to have a software or a way to really measure their productivity in monetary sense. Now, of course, that's not the only measurement. You got to look at the monetary sense, and as well as everything they bring to the culture and all of that of the firm and how they take care of clients. But you got to have a proper measurement, and you got to monitor those measurements. And don't tell me, well, I evaluate them once a year. That's not often enough. You need to monitor them and evaluate them almost on a weekly basis and keep it going all the time. So the evaluation should be something that happens throughout the year. Time management is something I'm not going to spend much time on, but I think it's a skill everybody needs to work on, is making sure that you're making the best of every minute of every day, and that you teach your team to also do the same. And I find that there's often a lack of knowledge on how to properly manage your time. So this is a skill that you absolutely need to master. And not only you, but your team as well. We're accountants and bookkeepers, and strangely enough, what's really interesting is how many of us as accountants don't even review our own numbers. We prepare financial statements at the end of the year for CRA, just like all of our clients, but we don't spend time every month looking at our numbers and trying to decide, how do I change or tweak my operation so that I become more profitable? So one of the things that I think is important for you to learn is how to really learn to read your numbers, how to understand them, and use them to make smarter, better management decisions on a daily basis. One of the elements that most people tend to forget as to what I think is needed to be in business and be successful is to take care of yourself. Take care of your own mentality or your own energy. Take time off, take weekends off, maybe not so much during tax season because it's almost impossible, but even at that, make sure you don't overwork yourself even in the business of time. Take time for yourself. And one of the things that I've always been preaching, and especially since I've really understood the slogan you've probably heard, work hard and play hard, I finally understood what that means, is that when you're at work, work hard, but when you're at home, really make sure that the time you spend at home where you're not working, doing things that really allows you to deflate, to really relax, whatever that is. So what I've found is I've learned to really take my time off as an opportunity to really do the things that I really enjoy and not just watch TV. Educate yourself. I keep saying in order for you to be in business, there are three major skills that you need to master: the technical skill, the marketing skills, and management skills. But in order for you to really master all three, that requires that you really educate yourself, that you read tons and tons of books on business, on practice management, that you listen to podcasts, that you listen to YouTube videos, and just fill your brain with all this knowledge and apply it. And then finally, if you were to ask me what was the single most important thing that I did that made the biggest difference in going from what I was making, which was almost nothing, to extremely well, was a mentor. Having someone who's more knowledgeable, more experienced than you are, can do wonders to your practice. But what's even more critical with a mentor is you want a mentor who has the same core values as you do, but more importantly, someone who will hold you to the fire and call bullshit on the things that you may be doing. So you got to make sure that these are people who will hold you accountable and really make sure that you're productive all the time. Now, I hope that you found this short video really useful, and I want to maybe reiterate my purpose. I no longer do this for money. Like I'm now into semi-retirement, and what I want to do is I look at all the pains that I went through to get the practice to where I was at, and in the course of doing that, I went through even a few years of total and utter burnout. And I cannot express enough how difficult those few years were. And I just wish that someone had maybe trained me on how to think differently to avoid that burnout that I went through. And that's something that I do not wish on any of you. And one of the things I want to be very clear is that if this video resonated with you and you just want to have someone to talk to, or you have questions about anything I discussed, please do not hesitate to communicate with me by phone or email. And trust me, I will respond. And I do not necessarily want to get paid. I want to help you guys out. So do not feel that if you call me, well, you can expect a bill. No, I'm not going to do that. To me, more than anything else, what I want to do in life is be able to go on my deathbed knowing that I might have made a little bit of a difference in someone's life. And hopefully that might be you.